Hi, I'm Steve from Oasis, and as we head into John chapter 7, Jesus has passed the peak of his popularity. Please pardon another pun, but Jesus is feeling the ripples from healing the man at the pool of Bethesda. We read about that in chapter 5, and since then the religious leaders have been plotting to kill him. Then, after Jesus talking with the crowds of the disciples about eating his flesh and drinking his blood, many of his followers have turned away from him in disgust. And because of the death plot, Jesus is keeping a low profile and he's staying away from Jerusalem. But the Feast of Booths is starting, and there's tension in the air as the religious leaders are thinking that Jesus may show up. Now, this Jewish feast is an annual celebration that happens in our October. Families built temporary shelters out of branches and then lived in them for the feast days. It was a form of camping that reminded them of wilderness life, but primarily it was a joyful time of harvest thanksgiving. In fact, if you go to Golders Green in North London in October, you can see these temporary booths still being built outside homes and shops. Jesus is also sadly alienated from his own family at this point. His brothers, who interpret his low profile as hiding away, cynically encourage him to effectively boost his ratings by putting on a miracle show at the feast, where there would be a lot of visitors from outside of Jerusalem, from across Israel. And Jesus said he wouldn't go, or he wouldn't go publicly, but then he did go privately. What's going on here? Well, by way of explanation, let me ask a question. How do you handle something unpleasant that you're not looking forward to? Maybe an exam or a visit to a doctor or a dentist. It's very easy to go to one of two extremes, both driven by fear. We can want to get it over with as soon as possible. So we may try to force whatever it is somewhat prematurely. It becomes our all-consuming priority in life. Everything else goes on hold. Or we can pretend it just isn't happening. We ignore it. We push it into the future indefinitely and begin to live in unreality. Well, Jesus knew the cross and all the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual pain and anguish that accompany that. He knew that was certainly coming. At this point, it was around about 6 months away. How do you live normally, happily, peacefully, joyfully, fruitfully, with death hanging over you, and an unpleasant death hanging over you in that way? Well, Jesus did. He didn't go to either of the extremes that we can. He was confident in his Father's control of the situation and the specific timing for the cross. He knew it was in his Father's hands and not the hands of the religious leaders. We see it 3 times in these verses in John 7 in phrases like, his time had not fully come, or his hour had not come. But note that this didn't make him gung-ho. He didn't go around with a swagger saying, I'm indestructible. He exercised wisdom and at times caution, not out of fear. He wanted his Father's timing, and he therefore wanted to avoid precipitating a crisis prematurely. So he avoided Jerusalem for a while. He didn't go to the feast publicly, but went up privately. But we find that neither was he overly cautious. When he did go to Jerusalem, about halfway through the feast, he went to the temple. He sat down and taught in plain view with all his characteristic authority and boldness. He wasn't afraid of what people thought. And when they did come, and when the religious leaders came, he was not afraid to confront them when they opposed him. Isn't he amazing? He was living calmly and confidently according to a divine calendar predetermined by his Father. Though he was surrounded by danger, he knew he was in a safe place because he was in the center of his Father's will, and he knew he'd be protected by him until he had finished what he had come to do, what he was called to accomplish on the cross through his death and resurrection for all mankind. You know, we can be so prone to fear and anxiety. I know I often am, and that may be about the future in a very general sense, the unknown, or it may be specific things that we're worried or fearful about. You know, the more we walk with Jesus and walk closely with him in all of life, the more we know that he is with us and he's in control until we've accomplished all he has for us to do. There may be dangers for us. There may be many dangers, but when we're walking with Jesus, we're in the safest place we can be. So we don't need to force things prematurely, and we don't need to pretend that challenges and dangers don't exist. Like Jesus, we can be wise, cautious, and courageous all at the same time, resting secure that he's in control of our life and future. Let's trust him and his divine calendar for our lives with all our hearts. God bless you. Have a great day.